Hey, I'm Dr. Cody, a US Navy trained psychiatrist, and I've been working with hundreds of clients over the past year who are using red light therapy devices from Vielight to improve the health of their brain. We're seeing improved mood, higher energy levels, better sleep, and less brain fog. And this is all achieved by shining red light on the brain, which activates mitochondria, enhances blood flow, reduces inflammation, but also if you pulse it with different frequencies, it can modulate brainwave activity. And that's where the NeuroPro2 from Vielight really shines, because you can program it to have all different types of pulsing frequencies, geometries, and patterns. Now, the downside to this is that the NeuroPro2 can have a steep learning curve in learning about how to actually program this thing, but that's what I'm here for, because this video is for those of you who are interested in the programming of the high-end red light therapy device NeuroPro2 from Vielight. Today, we're going to take a look at all the settings in the protocol builder and explain what they are. And in each section, I'll do demonstrations of protocol builds and talk about what I've seen in clientele as far as QEEG brainwaves go and how they're responding to these different settings. And at the end of the video, we'll do a full protocol build, just like you see on the Penny Jean Gracefire guide. So be sure to watch the whole video so you understand what we're doing in that build at the end. By the end of this video, you are going to be an expert on this device, I guarantee it. So as you jump into the app of the NeuroPro2, let's pick the easiest feature, which would be new single setting. And even as you get into that user interface, you're quickly bombarded with multiple different decisions to make. You can see the geometry of the device with all the different LEDs, and we can decide to program all the LEDs at once if you hit set all, or create special configurations of LEDs by programming them one at a time. There are also options for frequency sweep, power sweep, cross-frequency coupling. If your head is spinning with all these different options and terminology, you are not alone. This isn't even counting the ability to group different single settings together into batch protocols. So we'll walk you through each one of these settings, and we'll make a lot of references to the guide that comes with the device, the Penny Jean Gracefire guide to neuromodulation. We've actually had the author, Penny Jean Gracefire, on this channel several times, and we've often leaned on her 20 years of experience in the neurofeedback field, which is applying very nicely to red light therapy. So we'll cross-reference what we're talking about with what you see on the guide. And then, as I said before, we've had clients going through my 8-week program and using different types of these protocols and batches. So I'll give you a lot of insider information on what I'm seeing works best, what might not be working very well. Now, all the Vielight products give you various benefits of red light therapy, but where the NeuroPro2 really shines is its ability to shift brainwaves through different stimulation patterns and geometries. I've seen quite a few clients get stuck in various low to mid-range brainwave patterns with limited flexibility, which manifests as continued depressive symptoms, sleep issues, and brain fog. So this is where the NeuroPro2 really earns its keep in terms of cost, because you can program it to do all types of different stimulation strategies to get over the hump when it comes to an inflexible or stubborn brain. It's also a ton of fun. And I'm not gonna lie, it's also a ton of fun to take a look at before and after brainwave snapshots and see what these protocols are actually doing to your brain. Now, the NeuroPro2 does not have EEG technology, but my programs do, so I'm just putting that out there. So as we go into the app, let's take a look at frequency selection. But in order to talk about frequency selection, let's talk about brainwaves. Right here, you'll see the typical range of human brainwaves and what they mean. Our brains in sleep are primarily in delta and theta brainwaves. And as you move up into alpha, you are experiencing calm alertness and attention. And as you flip into logical thinking or intense focus, you get more beta. High beta can reflect overactivation, and gamma can reflect multiple things to include heightened perception. Now, in reality, our brains have all different frequencies present at any given time, but the ratios change based on your subjective experience. Now, our understanding of these brainwaves and how they correlate to different human subjective states is changing all the time. But in terms of frequency selection, when you're thinking about pulsing red light, if you want to calm someone down and ground them, you tend to use low to mid-range photobiomodulation pulsing, anything from alpha down to delta. If you want to wake them up in general, you want to use faster pulsing frequencies like beta and gamma. Now, for a lot of people, This can be relatively straightforward, but there are plenty and a lot of hard use cases where it's useful to get a QEEG before and after to see if the red light therapy setting is actually making a difference. That's what I do in my programs, and I think is pretty essential if you're going to use something like the NeuroPro2. Next setting is levels of power. So with the NeuroPro2, you can actually change the amount of red light that's being emitted from the LEDs. Some terms for this might be gentle versus full power. Generally, I like to start clients out at 100% power and check if they're having any side effects like fatigue, anxiety, or insomnia after the stimulation. If they're doing fine, I generally will take full advantage of the power of the NeuroPro2 and increase the power of their protocols to 140%. And this is where being in tune with how you actually feel before and after the red light therapy stimulation is really important. I often have to train people how to keep a journal and just be tracking and gain insight to how they feel. But they also might have a large change in subjective state. Maybe they'll get anxious or they'll have trouble sleeping that night. Other clients might be very rigid. They might have these resistant baselines that require maximum power, broad sweeps, crossover geometries, anything just to move the needle. All I can say is after looking at thousands of brain scans is that everybody's brain is unique. So within the red light therapy session itself, you can have a sensitive versus a resistant brain, and that will determine how much their brain responds to the photobiomodulation during the actual session. But when you take a look at all the time outside of the actual red light therapy session, that can differ as well. Some people can do 2 or 3 sessions a day because they have a very resilient brain and they won't experience fatigue afterwards. Whereas you might have someone's brain that has less endurance and they need to take a day off every 3 days just to allow the mitochondria in their brain to rest. In general, I like my clients to run their red light therapy sessions within the first 2 hours of waking because research shows that the mitochondria operate on their own circadian rhythms and they peak in ATP production in the morning. In the evening, they shift more towards cellular rest and repair. So if you want to increase energy levels, definitely do the red light therapy within the first 2 hours of waking. When you look at the simple setting of power on the NeuroPro2, you're thinking about all these different things. How rigid is their brain? Do they have a lot of endurance or low endurance? These are all factors to consider. Now let's talk about the frequency sweep setting. Let's just say, for example, you have someone with a lot of slow wave activity in the delta range. I've had a lot of clients with head injuries in the past that show chronic slow wave activity, especially in the frontal lobe. They have low energy, brain fog, mood issues. I've seen this in cases of long COVID as well. So if you see that, immediate jump to is, hey, let's try to speed things up a bit. Now you could go straight to stimulating them with gamma at 40 oscillations per second, 40 hertz, and see how they respond to that, which is normally what we do in my programs. We take before and after brainwave snapshots to see how they're responding. But it might be that you want to be more gentle in your approach because the brain might resist quick changes with too much difference. So you want to meet the brain where it's at and then gradually coax it upwards. So the frequency sweep allows you to do this. You can start at 20 hertz and then gradually stair-step increase to 40 hertz by having it increase the frequency by 1 hertz per second. Penny Jean has a whole language around this. She defines short sweeps as increases between 3 and 5 hertz, long sweeps to be 11 hertz wide, or in our case, a broad sweep from a range like 20 to 40. In general, this is just a more gradual way of bringing the brainwaves up to faster frequencies. You can see extensive use of this when you look at the Penny Jean Gracefire guide. Now let's talk about cross-frequency coupling and why you might want to use it. In the past year, I've had quite a few people already take my programs that are experiencing symptoms of Alzheimer's dementia. Now, when you look at the literature that Vielight has put out, some of the best evidence that we have is that you want to improve the function of the default mode network, which helps with memory retrieval by using gamma pulsing frequency. But my question is, what do you do if the client has anxiety, or when you look on their QEEG, they already have high levels of high beta and they're anxious? Should you go straight to gamma 40 hertz? Or can you try to get the best of both worlds with the calming effect of alpha and place a gamma stimulation on top of that? So the cross coupling allows you to get the best of both worlds. You can set a baseline alpha pulse, but then have a gamma pulse riding on top of it. This is what's called cross frequency coupling. This can be useful in multiple different scenarios. One of the main challenges that I've been having with clients is that there are imbalances in the brain. When I look at a QEEG, they're multicolored, meaning that there are different brainwave amplitudes prominent in different areas. It's not balanced. If I look at the beta frequency range, they might be 2 standard deviations above normal in the right frontal and 3 standard deviations below normal in the left temporal. Now, you do have to be careful about data contamination, which can present this way, which is why we do QEEGs almost every day throughout the 8-week program. Make sure that we have consistent data. But if you are consistently showing imbalances between hemispheres, you could be having issues with synergy. Now, we know that the brain tends to communicate over longer distances through slower brainwaves. So typically, if you want to balance someone out and get both hemispheres on the same page, you're going to want to stimulate at a mid to low range frequency, anything from alpha down. Because I have stimulated people with gamma before that are showing imbalances, and the imbalances get worse as I stimulate them with gamma. It's like having a car engine with one of the pistons out of sync, and as you rev the engine, it becomes a bigger and bigger problem. Now, one way that you can try to solve this is that instead of just going straight for gamma, you can cross-couple frequency with alpha and try to get more of a balance. Hopefully the alpha is encouraging more communication between hemispheres, and the gamma is speeding things up overall. Now, I do tend to find that the slower wave in cross-frequency coupling tends to be the dominant wave form. So I've had difficulty speeding everything up by doing cross-coupling frequency, because if I try to speed up with gamma, the alpha sort of takes over and they just sit in alpha. Another way about this is creating a batch protocol and then doing 10 minutes of gamma without cross-coupling frequency. I've found that either one or the other works, and it has become a part of the algorithm in our 8-week program. We are systematically taking people through different protocol designs to see what works best. Now let's look at the LED geometry selection, and this is where it gets really interesting with Penny Jean's guide. On the guide, she has different active LEDs in different configurations for what she calls limbic, chiasmic, and full. Now, I have nothing but the highest respect for Penny Jean, and I think a lot of this comes out of the decades of experience she has in neurofeedback. But if I'm going to be honest, I think that the data for doing different configurations of red light therapy needs more evidence. I think I understand conceptually how this is supposed to activate different brain networks, and all I'm saying is that we need more data to confirm that this actually moves the needle for people. But that's why we're doing all these programs and collecting all this QEEG data to see what works best. For example, if you look at her limbic configuration pattern, it attempts to reach a geometry that primarily has limbic effects over your emotional circuitry in your brain, the limbic system. So this pattern is designed so that you skip over the motor strips, so you're focusing on structures that are primarily related to the limbic system. But my issue is that the limbic system is quite deep in the brain, and to assume that the red light affecting the cortex mainly is having this downstream effect on the limbic system is a bit of a stretch at times. I do think that the intranasal cannulas are having the ability to reach the orbital frontal cortex and the anterior cingulate, which are major cortical processing hubs for the limbic system. And certainly the frequencies that she is choosing, alpha down, will have more of a calming effect in the limbic configurations. And you'll notice that in those configurations, it's either theta or alpha. So there's a lot of great theory there, and I'm looking forward to collecting more data on if a configuration like that actually has more of a calming effect than if you just did a full stimulation patterns where all the LEDs are active. I personally really like the theory behind the chiasmic configuration because it solves a difficult problem. For those people who have this imbalance in their brain, it's actually one of the more difficult things I'm finding with the red light therapy is getting both hemispheres to communicate efficiently. Now, if you were to get both brain hemispheres to sync up and be on the same page, there would need to be a lot of communication across the corpus callosum. In this video, I've talked about how I've tried to use cross-frequency coupling and batch protocols with varying levels of success to get people to balance out. This chiastic configuration is designed to try and force the brain to utilize the corpus callosum more, because what it's doing is it's stimulating the peripheral hemispheres, but not the midline. So you're forcing those corpus callosum fibers to wake up and get these hemispheres on the same page. If the hemispheres are being stimulated in a certain frequency, in order for them to get on the same page, we need to wake up those fibers. Again, I love the theory, and I'm actively testing it with clients right now to see if it's more effective for achieving balance. And by balance, I mean that their QEEG brain maps are showing consistency in both hemispheres. So those are all the settings that you can go through for the single settings, but there's a whole other aspect to this app called batch protocols. Now with batch protocols, you can select different single settings and run them in a sequence to create an overall protocol like Penny Jean has on this guide. If you look under the batch section, you'll see focus or flex. These are all batch protocols that she's created. One of the most practical things that I've found to be helpful with batch protocols is that for some reason in the NeuroPro2 app, you can only sweep up, you can't sweep down. So if we want to sweep down, for instance, try to coax brainwaves slower and slower to get to sleep, for example, maybe start at 8 Hertz in the theta range and bring it all the way down to 1 Hertz in the delta range, we can create 8 different single protocols for each frequency and batch them together to stimulate at each frequency for 2 minutes and work your way down. But of course, this is where you can create really complicated protocols because you can get a lot of complexity in those single settings with the sweeps and the different powers and the geometries, and then you can batch 2 or 3 of them together for a 20 to 30 minute experience. If you look at Penny Jean's guide, each one of those red dot maps is a single setting, and she has 3 of them in a row in a batch. It can be really fun to make batch protocols, and that's really what we end up with at the end of my 8-week program because we've tested systematically each different facet of the NeuroPro2 stimulation abilities, and in doing so, we understand what works for the person and creates their own batch protocol at the end of the 8-week program. Generally, we start simple with single setting frequencies and see how they respond to those, and then gradually increase the complexity with cross-coupling, batching, and sweeps until we find something that really moves the needle on their own unique brain. Because after doing red light therapy for the brain specifically for over a year now, I've seen so many different baselines and responsiveness that it's truly humbling because everyone really does have a unique brain. I hope this helps. If you got a NeuroPro 2, hopefully you've got some ideas about how to program it. As you can see, it can be really helpful to have a measurement device to see how your brain's actually responding to all these different settings. Through Techforpsych, we do have consults where you just get your QEEG. We also have the 8-week training program. So if you're curious about those, take a look at the description below for links. Or if you just want to stick around on YouTube and learn more about this wild and exciting new field of red light therapy research and design, check out this video here, and I'll see you on the other side.